evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. Now, 40 years ago, the All Women's Action Society, better known as AWAM today, was born out of a small but determined group of Malaysian women demanding justice and equality. Now, today, AWAM marks its 40th anniversary this year, but we want to ask on the show, why does gender-based violence continue to persist, and how can each of us be part of changing that story? So joining me on the show today, I'm delighted to introduce the good folks from AWAM, Betty Yeoh, who is a long-time women's rights activist and one of AWAM's founding members. She's currently a trainer facilitator on issues such as sexual harassment and survivor support. I also have Jayamalar Samuel, who is the Capacity Building Director at AWAM. She's active in AWAM's training and gender-based violence outreach, as well as public advocacy. Ladies, welcome to the show. It's so good of you to join me here. Lots to talk about, and AWAM really is such an institution in civil society landscape, especially fighting for women's rights. Betty, you're one of the founding members. Can we start at the very beginning? How did AWAM begin, and what was it that the founders were trying to change in 1985? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us, Melisa. So, as you mentioned, in 1985, a long time ago, that was a period of there's a lot of violence, both physical, verbal, etc. And we have new people returning. We have students from overseas who have returned. And that year, 1985, also marks the end of the decade for Decade of Women. It started in 1975, ends in 1985. And so all the combination of issues brought about a 2-day workshop. So this is the historical workshop that brought about all the different groups of people for this 2-day workshop in March 1985, and it covered all the different forms of violence, gender-based violence. And after the workshop, the people who came from various organizations felt that we need an organization that can make change. So that was how a few of us, because we all come from different organizations, we came together and we started to form a society, the All Women's Action Society, which everyone calls AWAM. So you can see the word AWAM actually stands for All Women's Action Movement, which was what we wanted. But, of course, registrar said, no, movement is too militant. So it changed to, you maintain as All Women's Action Society, but they kept AWAM for us. So all this combination brought us to AWAM.
But I actually like it better as AWAM because there's the localized flavor of it, right? And it speaks to the fact that women are half of the society. We are also part of the public, so we must be recognized as such. Jaya, today AWAM, 40 years old. Talk to me a little bit about the what the organization is today, and maybe a little bit about your role in it.
Okay, the organization has really, how to say, it's thrived in the sense that we still value the senior people who has shaped and built AWAM, and currently the office has a team of 7 young people, mostly young women, you know, who came and joined AWAM mainly in the last 2 years, and they've been part of AWAM in work of training. So we have young women working on training on issues on anti-sexual harassment with the corporate partners. We also talk about issues on period poverty, and we target the university, we cater to the university students and college students, and also schools where we are invited. And we also have AWAM also currently, which started during in the 90s on the services called Talinita. AWAM has been very actively providing services, and we work very closely with the police, with the Ministry of Women, where we share our data on domestic violence, on gender-based violence. and also we also provide a lot of advocacy work. We are quite active in our social media.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Telenita, the helpline service, because it's one of the longest, well, I think it is the longest serving helpline services for domestic violence, gender-based violence. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Telenita is kind of, can we also say, the heart of AWAM, in the sense, I think Betty was one of the pioneers who initiated it also, and I think it's in early 90s. And it started with us taking on calls on issues on domestic violence and gender-based violence, and we still continue to do that. And we mainly have a Telenita number, and we reach out to nearly 1,000 plus women and men in a year. You know, so this year we have really reached out to more than 600 people, and we do not say it is only catered to men, only catered to women. It's for women and men, and no matter what race. And sometimes we do have clients calling us who wants to speak in Mandarin or Tamil. We also coordinate that so that they can able to speak in the language that's comfortable with them. And currently we have intern counselors who are working with us, and we have a Telenita room, and also we have a legal people who are also working with us, whereby they give legal advice.
Why is it important that we have this service, that we maintain this service, that Telenita continues on for another 40 years? Betty, can you tell me a little bit about what Telenita represents to survivors of domestic violence, gender-based violence, whether this intervention has helped change a life or save a life?
I think Telenita by its name is tele, which is telephone, and Nita for Wanita. So that's how it's combined, Telenita, when we first started, to support women who face all the different forms of gender-based violence. Very often women who speak out and all that could be seen like, are you sure all this happens to you? When in those days when you go to the police, they will say, you go back, prepare something nice, it'll be okay. So all these things give women no space for them to alert what they are going through. And having a phone was very helpful because you could call in and express what is it that you need, and that's why we train people to provide immediate support through the counseling. And if they need legal information, we have our legal pupils to also help. And that's how that has also helped during the COVID time. People cannot go out. The phone is the only connection that gives them support. So that is why Telenita is a very important tool to support everybody, not just women, but men, and you also have children sometimes.
Really?
You can have children who not anyone below 18 is a child.
Yeah, that's
so
absolutely
the older
true.
children, they call up and say that they face this. So once through Telenita is established, we are inviting them to come in person, so that we could share with them more and teach them tools to help themselves. So that's a very important connecting tool.
It's the first.
It's almost the psychological first aid.
The first kind of reaching out for support, right? The first touch. So wonderful that you have this, and such an important service you provide at AWAM. But AWAM has also been behind many other milestones, right? I'm very proud to have been to bear witness to some of the milestones. Betty, tell me about the milestones.
Well, two milestones that I definitely remember, because those were the exciting times. For the Domestic Violence Act of 1994, it was already passed, but it didn't get implemented until 1996. So in order to facilitate the fast implementation, we as in the women's group actually ambushed the minister during one of her functions, the Minister of National Unity then, to request her to put pressure to say that please get this act implemented. And prior to that, it was passed at the very last minute before the parliament
session was over.
So those are very exciting times. There's no internet to help you to go and spread your message. It was postcards and actually going down to the parliament to hand postcards or whatever, to talk to the MPs. So it's a very grounded activity.
I'm sure movement building at that time was a whole different,
it's a whole different
ball
thing.
game, right? You have to really put in the kind of work. You have to go on the ground and talk to people about your issue.
So that was on Domestic Violence Act, but that took 11 years in all.
11 years.
9 years the campaign, etc. passed, and 2 more years to wait for it to be implemented. Subsequently, when that is done, we work on the anti-sexual harassment. So the first draft is 2001.
Wow.
Okay, but it only got passed in 2022. So it was over 20 years wait. I think if we are not so healthy and strong, we might have been not be able to see the light of the act. But thank God we managed to get it through, and by the time it came to 2018, there's change movement in the government, and they started to say, let's revive this act. And by 2022, it got passed. And it was a real anticlimax, because in the parliament, the Minister of Women presented, and they called for a vote, and everyone, less than 3 minutes, everything gone. For a 22-year work. Less than 3 minutes, pass. And we in the women's movement started to call one another, hey, the act passed. We were like,
was it that quick? Yeah.
It was.
Wow.
I think if we were not watching on that morning, we wouldn't even know that the act was passed.
What does that tell you, Betty, about the way change happens? When you work at something, you chip away at it for 20 years, and it passes in 3 minutes. What does that tell you about the nature of timing, the nature of shifting attitudes towards gender equality, women's rights, and the like?
I think one is you really need to withstand time, be dedicated enough to continuously work on it. 2, you create enough groundswell.
Okay.
People already start to hear about it, they know about it. It's no longer a taboo word to talk about this. So people are comfortable to do it. And a lot of awareness, even during the COVID time. This law was passed just after COVID.
Yes.
Even during the COVID time, we organized advocacy session online with all the members of parliament.
Wow.
So we had online advocacy work with the members of parliament since we couldn't go there. So this kind of commitment, dedication, and also going in for the long haul is a must if we are doing advocacy work.
Sometimes I think the battery is drained, right? You lose hope. Maybe after decades you think, oh, we're really not going to see any movement. But you know, when change happens, it happens all at once, and you have to check, did it really go through, did it not pass through? Jaya, talk to me a little bit, because you have really experience in the kind of frontline work of this. From your observations, you're monitoring your work. What are you seeing now in terms of the current landscape of gender-based violence? Have any patterns shifted? Are you seeing it evolve in your time as someone who's been working in women's rights?
Okay, the issue of gender-based violence still remains, in the sense we still, even when I started working on issues on gender-based violence in my mid-20s, you know, in Penang, I still saw the call on abuse, domestic violence abuse, and we still have it. So the awareness building is a long journey. But what we see evolving is more of a younger people being exposed to gender-based violence, being, also facing intimate partner violence. And also we have cases of femicide, whereby the women mainly not only go through a situation of gender-based violence, but they also die out of it, you know. So in AWAM we start slow monitoring that, you know, to see that's the pattern we see, you know, on issues on femicide and issues of intimate partners violence, whereby sometimes they are in a relationship but it's not a legal relationship. So there's also such violence happens between the partners. And also online gender-based violence is also happening. So because it's slowly evolving, and we are also catching up and monitoring, and so what we do is we also work with other organizations, our sisters organizations, to see how we could also address the issue of online gender-based violence. And recently we also did a survey on anti-sexual harassment and in the universities and colleges, just to understand whether it's happening, you know. So we are currently analyzing the data.
Right. Well, when you look at data like that and the kind of trends that have, what do you see whenever you see maybe a spike? So there was a lot of discussion about during lockdown that there were increases in domestic violence, gender-based violence, because everyone was at home and, you know, tensions were high, pressures were high. And then also recently there was, you know, news that there's these random spikes, increased number of cases of domestic violence. How do you read those types of trends and patterns, someone within AWAM?
I think for us, when we read this kind of trend and patterns, we see few things. One, service is still important. You know, so we need to provide services, especially to the communities who are very far to reach, you know, and services is not only the one we provide in Talinita, which is very important, also providing shelters. So although it started in the many years ago, like in the 20-30 years ago, but these services are needs very important. And also institutionalizing the issues on violence against women and gender-based violence. That means educating the younger generations from the very young age to respect both gender, you know, and also to the important how to identify if such a violence happens, because violence sometimes is not physical, it could be starts with emotional violence. We also see issues like sexual grooming, but if we don't educate a child on understanding that this can happen to him or her, because it happens to boys, it also happens to girls. So I think education is very important, but it shouldn't be an ad hoc education. That's where we go one off to the school, or sometimes when there's a peak of an issue happening, then we go and talk about it. I think it should be institutionalized in schools, starting from primary, even in the kindergartens. You know, so that like in the kindergarten, maybe we can't talk issues about sexuality per se, but we can talk about good touch and bad touch.
So age appropriate, right?
Age appropriate, age appropriate, and involvement of young people is very important. They shouldn't be the one at the receiving end of education, but they should also be involved, so that they also help to shape, because they know better what they go through. You know, so the trend is mostly services and institutionalizing all this education and awareness, and having it in multi-language, because we are a multi-racial country. So having it in multi-language is very important. And fourthly is, I feel the involvement of faith-based organizations is also very important, because a lot of us go to
our mosques and
temple, church, and everything, and most of our children are also involved in going for mengaji, going for Sunday school and things like that. So I think involvement of faith-based organization in these issues of gender-based violence and creating equality and respect for both men and women, and also people of other diverse people, even including disability, it's very important.
Betty, do you have anything to add to that in terms of the fact that, you know, institutionalizing this is very important, right? It's wonderful that AWAM is being able to provide some of these services, but we really should be thinking about how to institutionalize this to provide support. I also am quite curious about some of the changes that have happened with gender-based violence. It's spilling over into the online space and into real life. It's moving to younger and younger people, as Jay mentioned, and whether that changes the type of response that's needed, the type of support that's needed.
I think for now, it's quite well known that mental health is a big issue among all the generations. And bringing in parents, yes, is very important, because parents of the older generation have that set thinking about male and female roles. But parents of the new generation are more open. They are like friends. And we want to encourage parents to be more friends to the young children, because then it will allow them to have open communication. It's when there is no communication between the child and the parents that they do not know where to go to. And society itself needs to be aware, so that when you cannot speak to your parents, you're scared of your teachers, there's someone out there that you can also reach out to. That is why lines like Telenita, the Talian Kasih and all plays a very important role, because children knows how to make calls. they make the right call and they will be connected to the right people. So that is something that even society needs to know. You know, sexual harassment for a long time, you can't get any help. But now, either workplace or in general, there is space for you to make reports. There is space for you, you know, to claim your rights if you have been sexually harassed. So it's a different change in society that provides more support to the people. Unfortunately, it's the people not looking out to go and find the different resources for themselves.
That's a really good point. So if someone watching today says, how can I, in my individual capacity, act in my everyday life to change this situation, change the situation around sexual harassment, around gender-based violence, what can I do? And also, separately, what can they do to support AWAM? Because, you know, this is you're a wonderful organization doing important work. And I think that it deserves support from us, the public. So both of you, if I can ask what we can do in an individual capacity to change society and also to help the organization.
I think one of the things we always tell people is be an active bystander. You know, we are active if there's an accident, we want to see what's the number plate and all that. But when there is a gender-based violence, we tend to tell people, shh, don't talk so much, it's their business. So be an active bystander, see what you can do. If you're able to do something, do it. Of course, be safe to yourself first. If you cannot do on your own, get someone to help you. Otherwise, you delegate it to somebody to do it. And in this way, we are helping one another. We are safeguarding one another. And we are able to support one another. So that's important, whether it is for violence or for any growth in our community.
Yeah. Say something, right? Speak up.
Speak up.
Okay, for me is if you want to be involved, you can always volunteer. There are various, you can volunteer in AWAM. We do have volunteers. And when you volunteer in AWAM, you also be part of the training. So your capacity is built, and when you meet with your friends in your network, you can share the right information. Okay, so that's possible in the sense, and also how to say, be part of AWAM in the sense, currently AWAM is 40th anniversary, we are celebrating, so this is a canvas of change. We have drawn 25 portraits, you know, by our Malaysian artist, Hakim Abdullah. So there are some paintings that we have that we are selling to raise fund, because you know, sometimes people think when you work in an NGO or when you work in a how to say, a civil-based organizations, we work as volunteers. But yes, we do volunteer our service, but we also get, how to say, we need funding.
Of course,
especially funding to serve
the
community, serve the women and men in need, and to do a lot of programs for children and also to the college students. So we need money, you know, and we need resources. So that's why for this year, AWAM, as part of our celebrating our 40th anniversary, we came up with this portrait book, and then also we have 25 portraits, and we will be exhibiting it from the 19 October to 22nd. On 19 October to 2nd November,
2nd November
at Ulmu.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the portraits are beautiful, aren't they?
Yes.
And I wish you both all the best and all the fundraising that's necessary for this, for the important work that you do. Thank you for coming on the show and telling us a little bit about the need for institutions like AWAM. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for you on this episode of The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.